Good evening and welcome again to the Let's Talk Destiny talk show. I'm honored to have with me tonight my baby sister, Kelly Greene Adams, and we're going to talk, as you know, this month our theme is from formulation to fruition with purpose. And so as the month of September is known as the birthing month. And so we're going to talk about things that we have had to push through in order to give birth to in our life. And tonight, um, I'm so excited to have my sister here because she always brings such wisdom and insight. And so first, let me just say welcome back to our platform.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Now, besides your children, what is one thing that you are most proud to have birthed at this point in your life?
I'm going to say the birthing of my the girlfriend's sorority or organization.
And tell us a little bit about that.
So I just want to say I feel like some of the greatest things that we experience come at the time we least expect it. And I was away at a conference and I had to preach, and I stayed over the next day. When I got in the elevator that day, um, let me back up a little bit and say a lot of my life in ministry has been around youth and young adults. And I did a lot of like youth conferences. I was a youth pastor. I just loved young people, and I still do. But I felt the Lord shifting my ministry to women. And I was like, okay, but I still wanted to hang on to the youth. But I was in the I preached, as I said, and I got the next day I went to the day session. And when I got on the elevator, a young lady got on with me, and she looked at me and she said, "Are you the preacher from last night?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And she said, "I want to say that I really enjoyed you." She said, "I do enjoy preaching." She said, "But when you were speaking, it was like I'm sitting on the couch with my girlfriend and we're just talking." And I said, "I am your girlfriend." I
Wow.
went back to my hotel room that night, and the Lord began to deal with me. And anybody that knows me, and you know me, I love acronyms. And I thought about that. I am your girlfriend. And I thought of God inspired real love friend. So I began to think about how we don't have a lot of those. I mean, we have people that we call friends. We have people that we think are our friends, and then they show us that they weren't really like with us. But it was an opportunity to create a platform where we could really love people with the love of God, the unconditional love that I accept you just like you are. So I just wanted to do it like, with my people. So I remember I had like 7 of my friends here in Philadelphia that we got together and we had a little meeting, and most of us were like entrepreneurs and already had our own businesses. So it was kind of like a time we got together and we shared and we supported each other. And it was like really great. And I was thinking, oh, this is nice. And then of course I'm from Maryland. I'm from the Eastern Shore. Woo, woo. Shout out to Salisbury. And I wanted to do the same. Everything I do here, I want to share it with Salisbury. It's like I feel like, oh, this is great. We need this on the Eastern Shore. So that's always my big thing. So I actually started a group there in Salisbury, and I went to the first event that we had, and it turned out that all the young women who came were like vendors. They were people who like had a story, but they had a gift. And so I made that a platform where these younger women could share their gift as well as share their story. And then I was working with a church in New Jersey, and they wanted to have one. And so I had one with them, and theirs was more of a fellowship, but it was more of like a grassroots, I want to do a business, but I've never done one and I'm afraid. And how do I do that? And because I already had a business called Flavored, it actually helped small businesses get legally compliant, do grant funding and things of that nature. I worked with them in that area. But an amazing thing happened, which also taught me a valuable lesson, because this thing started, we created a Facebook page and it started to grow. And people started hitting me up from all over the country saying, well, can you do one here? Can you do a group here? And I mean, from Texas and from West Virginia and all these places. And of course, me, I wanted to yes to all of them. I wanted everybody to get an experience, because I feel like one of the biggest issues in America today, and especially in our culture, is we are not taught to celebrate each other. There's society has given us where we body shame if we're not a certain size, if we don't look a certain way. And then we have unfortunately, our counterparts, which are our African-American males, who look at certain body types and make comments like, I like a woman with a big butt, I like a woman with a this, I like a woman. And if you don't measure up to that and you're his woman, you're thinking, well, then do you love me? Because I don't have those things. So I wanted us to learn, and I created Girlfriends to say, why can't we, one, love ourselves the way we are? And from that, we birthed Loving the Skin I'm In. So every October, we try to celebrate self-acceptance, not self-care, but self-acceptance. Because if I don't love me, if I don't accept me, then I won't care for me. So we all, we grab onto these cliches and these words, and everybody think, what have you done to do self-care today? But the reality is, if I don't feel good about myself, I'm not going to take care of myself. So I really created, and it just grew. And I look at it now, we're on October the 9th, we are having, again, we're able to come back together. And so we partnered with Temple University here in Philadelphia, and we're having a Loving the Skin I'm In. And it's going to be part virtual and part in person. But the good part of it is that we'll be celebrating women from all across the country. We now have chapters all over the country where there's somebody there. And I think the most important part about this for me, Jamie, is that it's not just me. Like initially, I was running to every place. I was running to Salisbury, I was running to New Jersey, I was running to Philly. And then I realized there's only 4 Saturdays in a month. So pretty soon I'm not going to be able to, but I was able to find women with a like passion and make them chapter leaders and say, hey, grow yours around what your area needs. If your area needs mentorship, then grow it in that area. Now, yes, I support you. Yes, I'll help. I have people that will come in and will support you and will do whatever, but each place brings their own flavor. So I'm really excited about Girlfriends, because it's like a sorority actually. And I look forward to it's continuing to grow. And once we get, past the COVID and all of that, with that, we can really just come together, women from all over the country that all wear, we're going to all have shirts that say Girlfriends, but the color will represent your state or your city. And I'm just really excited about, I think that for me is one of my greatest, proudest moments, is like now we're looking at launching, and I'll give you guys a sneak peek in October at the thing we're launching, I'm Your Girlfriend Too. And we're actually taking mentorship where we're reaching down to the next generation and saying, I'm your girlfriend, but she's your girlfriend too, because we need to mentor and pass on to our next generation that you don't have to exploit yourself. You don't have to show all your goodies. You don't have to meet anybody else's standards, but just learn to love yourself, love the skin you're in.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that we need to do more of in our communities, in our culture, is to bridge that gap. You know, we have this generation sitting over here, you know, thinking they have all the answers and pointing at the younger generation across the street saying, look at them, they should be ashamed. Why are they doing this? But we need to take them by the hand and show them by example how to love themselves. I absolutely love that, and that whole concept of girlfriend and how it came to be. And it is amazing how sometimes we get frustrated because we're sitting down trying to come up with ideas, trying to um, come up with things to do to help people. I know as a visionary myself, my mind is always going, going, going. I wake up in the middle of the night with ideas and I turn on the light and jot something down and go back to sleep and stuff like that. And then when you try to reach out to other people, because you're like, oh my God, this is a great idea. This will really help you. This is really blah. And then they don't respond. It's like, what in the world? And so sometimes when you're not thinking about it, like you say, accidentally, coincidentally, by divine order, whatever the case may be, something drops, a seed drops in your spirit, and you can produce something that you never even thought of before. And I think that's
Right.
what happened with girlfriends. That's powerful. Now you have, and I know this personally, that you have overcome a lot. You've achieved many goals in your life, some that you didn't think were possible, and some that other people told you that you need to let go of and not pursue. But tonight I want to talk specifically about your perseverance and your capacity to push during one of the most painful times in our lives, which was during the death of our father. And I was going through some pictures the other day. I really need to get some photo albums because I got pictures everywhere. And I saw a picture of your graduation, and it just like hit me all over again emotionally because it doesn't take much for me to start crying. But if my memory serves me right, I think that this graduation occurred right after Daddy died. And I want you to talk to us about how you were able to push through that time to get up on that stage and receive your diploma.
I don't know if I can do this without crying, because when I saw your advertisement for this, I immediately remembered sitting at the table at our parents' home and talking to my dad, and just, like, when I remember saying, "Do you think I could be a lawyer?" And he said, "Yes, Kelly, you could be a good lawyer because you always can advocate." I said, "A defense lawyer or a prosecutor?" And we were having this conversation. And I said to him, "Well, I didn't finish my degree." And he was like, "Why?" I was like, "Because I got to the end and realized they told me that I was ready to graduate. Then I found out I needed 3 classes. And I was like, I'm not going back to school. I'm done." And he said, "Finish." And I was like, okay. But I really, like, I didn't, I had got in the workplace then and I was rolling with that. I just really didn't want to go back. And um, then, of course, as you know, he died very suddenly, but finish was just in my head. So I enrolled back in school and I graduated. I did my thing and I graduated. And as you know, a lot happened between the time I went back to school. You moved back to Maryland. You had major surgery and a couple major surgeries, and we all were like kind of living there together, just trying to heal emotionally and physically during this time. But I just kept hearing I always used to say I'm a Christian. And one of the things that helps me to make right decisions is the image of God, my Father, looking at me from heaven. And I always say, and I want him to be happy with me. I want him to be smiling at me. So sometimes when I want to do something, I think of God in heaven and he's like going, Kelly. So part of that transferred to my natural father being in heaven and hearing his voice saying, finish. You can do it. You can do it. He believed in me. And because he believed in me, whether he was physically here or not, I had to accomplish that. That was important for me. But the thing that was most devastatingly hard for me was when we graduated, it was on his birthday. And I told my teacher, who was Dr. Kimberly Dumpson. She was married to, she is married to Sykes. She's married to Timothy Sykes. And she was one of my teachers. And I said to her, I don't want to walk across the stage. And she was like, well, why not? I was like, just send me my diploma. I don't need to walk across the stage. And she was like, Kelly, this is like, every moment that we do something major, we need to capitalize, blah, 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 her whole spiel. And I told her, I said, it's my dad's birthday. I just don't want to do it. And she said, I believe that this graduation fell on his birthday to show you that he's with you on that day.
Wow.
And of course I cried, and I cried that day too. Just a crybaby. But it really was like he was there with me, and I finished. I honored what he asked me to do. But there were days like when you had the really dangerous surgery, the one that was really dangerous, and we had to get nurses in for you. And then Kevin had a little situation, so he was at the house, and Christian, he's there, and Trey's there, and we're just all like, I started to say something that wasn't politically.
That's correct. And I know exactly what you were going to say, and I'm glad you didn't. Good job.
So, but we're all in there. And I was like, man, this is just too much. I just can't. And I do remember letting one class go, because I was doing 3 classes, which was a full load for your master's. And I took just one class off. One of my teachers, who was also my advisor, she took me in the office one day, and I was trying to finish in May. And she said, I'm not going to approve you doing 3 classes this semester so you could graduate. And I was like, well, why not? And she said, what is the worst thing that could happen if you didn't graduate in May? And I was like, I'd have to come back, and I don't want to come back. She was like, well, if that's the worst thing, then I think you can live with that. She said, you have had a lot of loss since you came back to school, both of your parents, sister, and, there was just so much going on with people like that died, and changes in my life. And she said, you really need to just step back. And I'm not saying don't come, but I'm saying don't take a full load. And God worked it so that I didn't take the full load. I had the summer off. I went back and did the one class from September to December, and then graduated. But I think that is something valuable that I learned in that process. While I was not going to stop, was that I wasn't going to stop like I did before. I wasn't going to walk away because things didn't go my way. I wasn't going to give up. I was going to just keep pushing, because that voice of my father that says, you can do it, Kelly, go ahead and finish, just kind of drove me to that last part. And then, just helped me to realize that the race isn't given to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, but to the one that endures to the end. I had a very good friend of mine tell me one time, she said, you're a very bright person. You learn fast. And I was working for her. And she said, But the fact that you didn't finish your degree says something to a person when they're hiring. It says that you don't finish. Sometimes she said it doesn't matter what your degree is in. Your degree could be in elementary education and you could be having a job in something totally different. But when you finish, when you hang in there to the very end, that speaks a lot volumes to people that want to hire you or people that want to work with you. So she said to me, I encourage you to finish your degree because that speaks volumes. But what's interesting is her words were nice to hear and they were something I thought about and it's something I remembered, but they didn't drive me like the words of my father. And I used to always tell people, even now, excuse me, that even now, when I used to preach, I don't, people would say, oh, you did a great job. You had a powerful word. The Lord used you, yada, yada, yada. But when my father was living, I looked for him. I wanted to know what he thought about the message. I wanted to know what he thought about it. And even I saw something the other day that said, every man in the city, well, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but every man in the city can tell you you're beautiful. But the man you need to hear it from the man you love. So it's who that person is in your life. It's the role that they play that matters. And because my dad mattered, his opinion mattered, what he thought mattered. It was the driving force that in those times when I didn't want to go to school, when I was tired that night, or I had just got off work and I wanted to stay home. And one night I didn't have a babysitter and I had to take Christian to class with me. And I was like, just sit in the back and color, don't say nothing. But it was just that pushed me to say, finish, you can do it.
And so it was something about our parents, not just our father, but he was a little more aggressive than mom. Well, a lot more aggressive, but that's a whole nother show. But once they made up their minds that they were going to do something, it might not go fast, it might not go the way people think it should, but they were very purpose driven. Like even when mom wanted to start the Christian school, and no matter how many people were saying it's not a good idea, people don't pay when they come to Christian school because they think you're supposed to be just doing it as an extension of ministry. They don't understand the business part. Whatever, she still kept doing what she felt that she, in her heart, was needed to be done. And so I think we get that from both of them. That whole thing about birthing stuff, like I know sometimes since I've been sick and what have you, and I've had those days or whatever when I call you, I'm like, I can't do this. I don't feel good. I got really bad anxiety. I'm frustrated, blah, blah, blah. And you're just like, okay, well, just take a minute. Don't worry about next week. You can get it done. And I just think that it's a blessing because a lot of people don't have that in their spirit or in their upbringing or anything like that. Now, on your graduation day, I do remember that day at UMS, and our brother was there, and he has since gone on to be with the Lord. We have had so many reasons to give up if we wanted to. We've had so many reasons to say, okay, that's enough. But that's just not who we are. That's just not what we do. And I remember somebody saying to me one time, everything you go through, don't worry about it. It's just a part of your testimony. And I was like, listen, I'm not trying to be disrespectful because this was an older lady at the church. She's gone on too, bless the Lord. But I said, I don't need any more testimonies. I got enough testimonies. It's time for somebody else to get some testimony. But as I was thinking about you today, and of course, I was crying because I'm always crying. and looking at the pictures of your graduation. And I remember also that you had some type of medical procedure during that time, and one of your arms you couldn't use properly. It was just a lot going on. But I think that knowing that your dad was looking down on you and pushing you, and your mom would be like, okay, go ahead, that's my baby girl. And then you have family members in the audience um, that were there. We were determined we were going to be there regardless of what was going on. I think that also helped to drive you to get you across that stage. And I remember when they called your name, it was like unbelievable. Like, she did it. She did it. Because, we jokingly would call you the professional college student, because like you kept going back to school, going back to school. I went back a couple times and I said, forget it. But you kept going back to school, going back to school. And okay, at this point, what is your highest degree that you have?
I have 2 masters.
See, that's a shame. I think I went to 3 classes and that was it.
But I actually I love to learn. I love to learn. So like I get certifications. Like right now, like I found, like, you gotta know what your niche is and what you're going after. And it's funny because, again, this same Dr. Kimberly said in one of her classes, she said, when you look at your life, you really see who you are and what your life passion is in every job that you enjoy. And when I looked at my life and I looked at my life passion, I realized that I love to teach, whether it be one-on-one or in front of people. So my master's, one of my masters is in Christian education, and the other master's is in education. And I have community counseling, which took me into the therapy field. But now I'm getting ready to be certified as a trauma-focused trainer. So
Why
that
are
I
you
can,
laughing? Why are you laughing?
because you said, and I didn't even want to tell it because you're the professional student.
There's nothing wrong with that. But it just is funny. It's always been a family joke because, like, you would drop out or you would quit, and then we all knew sooner or later you were going to go back and do something.
Well, the thing, like, I always want to learn, but I had to find what I wanted to learn about. And when I
Right.
found sociology to be the niche, the study of human behavior,
Yes.
to this day, I am fascinated by human behavior. And just watching people in an elevator sometimes, I just be like, or watching people walk down the street, I'm like, just what make, and I used to watch a lot of ID channel and stuff, because I want to know what made that person do that, what made them tick, what made them think they had to do that. That was the answer. So I'm very fascinated with that. The other part about learning is I feel like when you close your mind to a place where you feel like that you know enough information or you know enough about a subject, then I think you limit your own experiences in
Yes.
life. So I always want to be open to learn. I don't ever want to feel like that I've ever, because I'll say even from the people that I work with, when I look at some of these kids and I look at even some of the adults and I hear the horror stories that they've endured and see the resilience, I learned something. I learned something just from their story. And I just feel like, that for me, like, teaching is not just about me sharing knowledge with other people, but it's an opportunity for me to learn as well. So I'm always looking for that. So, and the fact that you said that, I actually did apply. I am going to go back and get my doctorate next year, but I want to get my certification to start training people first. So after I get my doctorate, I didn't go because I used up all my financial aid. But that's not funny. But it's okay. When I went to apply to the doctorate program, they said I had no funds available and I could still come, but I'd have to pay for it myself. I was like, no, I don't want to pay for it myself. So I was like, let me finish my training, get a little cash under my belt, and I may take my doctorate classes, you know.
That's awesome. Well, I'm proud of you.
Actually, that was my goal. My goal was never to be in the field of therapy over 5 to 6 years. I wanted to do research. I like to do research. I love statistics and numbers and studies of people. And that's why, you know, I'm so excited about when you were talking about the social injustice panel. I like to hear numbers. I like to hear, and that's why I didn't quite say anything, but I don't agree with the concept of even narrowing, because I think you can look across the span of everything in society and see the disparity, and there's always room to talk about that. People need to see, like, it's not just disparity in the prison and in schools, but in medical, in mental, in, you know, in everything, jobs, everything.
Yeah, I just think it kind of makes sense to me that because if we don't, like you say, there's so much disparity and injustice, like just if we're just trying to put together a panel, we can be talking about everything till
Yeah,
this time next year. So I think if we do maybe two things at a time, address two
yeah.
issues at a time. But I just like when you said that about statistics, I need to get that information from you. What we were talking about the study about the children.
Yes.
Yeah,
The African
because stuff
American.
like that, yeah, is important. And I think that this is why you're such a good student, because you pay attention to things like that and you can explain things like that. Let me ask you this next question. What is next on your journey? What is it that you're birthing next? Don't say no doctors. Uh,
No, no. I have launched my private practice,
awesome. Awesome.
and it's called Therapy for Abundant Life. Um, it's the acronym TFAL, T, the letter 4, AL, TFAL. And it is right now, like, we don't take insurance, but I'm actually partnering with someone who has already gone through that process and hopefully will be able to take insurance, because I have a lot of people who like want to come, but because, you know, they can't afford it, and I
Right.
can't afford to lower the price. You know, I'm trying to find a way that their insurance will cover it. So I'm very excited about being able to provide mental health to Christians
Awesome.
and Christians, but I'm very excited about that. So this is my plan. As you know, right now, I currently work for 2 agencies, and my goal is next year that I'll be able to leave both of those agencies and work full time in my own private practice.
That's powerful. That's powerful. And this is what Let's Talk Destiny is about. Someone teased me and called me a purpose advocate, because I always include purpose in every show, in every theme, because if you don't have purpose, if you don't have focus, if you're not intentional about what you're doing, you'll spend the rest of your life just, jumping from place to place. And I just think that's powerful, because in spite of the challenges that you have faced, that you are, life challenges that you are facing now and what may come, you never let that stop you from birthing. And I love that. And I was thinking as I was preparing for tonight also, whenever I think about the challenges of birthing.
Please do not just be disrespectful to my nephew Trey. That's all I'm
I'm
going
not
to
going to
say.
talk about, I'm not going to go into the details about it, but whew, I know that I know the challenges of giving birth. But I think about that process, and I'm not going to go into any details about it. I think about that whole process, and at the very end, when I looked at you and I said, I can't do this. I just want to die. I can't do this. And the nurse was like, "You're going to do it." And she like got right in my face, spitting and everything. Good thing it wasn't no COVID going on. And she was screaming and yelling in my face. And she was like, "You push it, you do it right now." So I'm looking down there, you and mom, because you know, neither one of y'all were up there helping me. Y'all were down there like y'all was watching
I was
TV.
down there getting a full view. I had never seen it. I was fascinated. I'm sorry.
And I'm looking at you like, "Help me, I can't do this." And she said, "Now." And when she screamed at me and I pushed and the baby was born. We're not going to go into the more details about that. But my
But
whole
you know,
point,
no,
no, but my whole point with that is that at that point when I wanted to give up, when I literally, and I've heard people say, "Oh my God, when I was in labor, girl, I thought I was going to die." I literally wanted to die. It was just that bad. Um, but I survived and the baby survived. And I think about that a lot of times when I get frustrated about anything that I'm doing and I'm not getting the support that I think I should get, or I can't get it together like I want to because there's some challenges that I'm facing mentally and physically or whatever. And I think to myself, if I could do that, then I can take this class. It's only one class, you know, as an example. What were you going to say?
I was just thinking about when you talk about birthing and and I don't know, it just came to me like I had three sons. And I think about each of those births being so different, but each of them being unique. And you're absolutely right. The closest you come to death is like in those moments when you're giving life, and it is a challenge. But I think about my first son, who, I was young and full of energy, and I had him like no problem, and no complications, and people were like, "Oh," I remember the nurse saying to me when I wheeled out with him, "See you next year," which
Wow.
I was like, statistically, she was right, because statistically, when young women had a child when they were in high school, they would normally have another one before a year or so. But I wasn't a part of that statistic. In my mind, I never accepted that for myself. And as the story goes, it was 8 years later I had a child, and then it was another 14 years or 12 years later that I had another one. So I spaced my children very well, thank you very much, without her help and
Missy.
support. Um, but I think about the next birth that I had was um, a painful one, because not only did I have to push and give birth, but my son was already dead, so he couldn't help me. So it was like all up to me to make this happen. And there was nothing anybody could do. And my husband was still flying in from Florida. He hadn't even got back to
Wow.
Maryland. So it was like my mom, of course, my girl was there, ride or die. And she, was there with me, but it was a very painful thing, because after pushing and giving birth to that child, and then he not be able to come home with me and live, and having to bury him. And then my third son, who was, came some years later, came earlier than he was expected, and came into this earth with other people having the expectation that he would not live. And
Right,
I
right.
remember his father saying very specifically, when the doctor came in and said, "We're going to have to take him," and then started naming all of these things that could be wrong with him at birth, because of the early stage by which they were taking him. And his father just very calmly said to me, "God promised us a son. If he was going to have those issues, I believe God would have prepared us for that." And that's all he said about it. And they said Christian was going to be like a pound and a half. And he literally came into this earth 4.5 pounds. So, it was like against every odd that they said, like, "Oh, well, now that he was born at that 32 weeks, it'll probably be 39 weeks to have to stay here until that time. But at 35 weeks, once he learned to suck, and they were like, you have to be prepared that you may come in one day, he's doing well, and you may come in the next day and he's not. So be prepared for that. But Christian was like, he just kept going. He
Right.
never dipped. And again, each of those experiences for me as a mother was different, but they all were about doing something against odds. Like
Yes.
having
Yes.
this child my senior year. I had Kevin in February and I marched across the stage in May. I
Yes.
literally a 2-month-old baby when I graduated, but I did my midterm exams in the hospital.
Wow.
And still was able to pass and all. And then with my son that passed away, I was able to endure that. And that definitely was a hard one, to bury him and to, and it was hard for me. But of course I had my mom. And I remember one day she told me, I'm chuckling because I used to ride past the grave like every day, just sit there for a few minutes. And mom, she's one of those people really like, and she said, baby, you don't need to go there every day. It was like I wanted to make sure he was still there. Like every day I'm checking. But it was a loss that my Aunt Peggy was around at the time, and I went to stay with her immediately after that. And it was those kinds of things and those kind of people that said, I get it, you're hurting, but you're strong and you're going to be okay. And God was able to heal me. And I often share the testimony that 2 years after my son died, a young lady experienced something like I experienced and didn't want to be comforted by anybody that didn't understand her pain. And I was able to share with her, I get it.
Yeah.
Some people say, I know what you're going through, and they don't, but trust me, I know what it's like to give birth to your child. I mean, and that, it's not like a miscarriage, like you literally had to go through labor. So
Wow.
I think in each of those, it was such a learning experience. I learned a lot about, I said I was going to write a book called My Legacy of Loss, because, after my son died, not like some years later, his father was killed in a car accident. My father-in-law was killed in a car accident. My best friend and cousin was killed in a car, died of cancer. So I've had a lot of people that were close to my heart to pass away. But honestly, you know what I think about that, Jamie? I think of the scripture that says, I am compassed about with such a great cloud of
Yes.
witnesses.
Yes.
And
Yes.
those people I know they're in heaven, and I know that if they can pray for me, they are. I know that in those moments, sometime when I'm just riding along, the songs that come to my heart come from
Yes.
those people, and I was talking about my Aunt Peggy the other day, and how even in my sin, I would listen to her sing and just cry, and just from just the powerful anointing that was on her life. And it's that legacy that
Yes.
people is what keeps us going. It's not just because we're Reverend Greene's daughters. It's what that meant to us.
Right.
It's what that presented to us. It's who they were to us. They weren't just parents. I tell people all the time, I feel bad for people, that have those testimonies of like abusive parents or whatever, but I've not known anything negative about my parents, like all these years I've been on the earth and all the years they were on the earth. And I celebrate that they were people of great integrity and strength, and that faith that my dad had, that when we didn't even believe it, and I heard you talking about it the other night, where they would take our things and give it away. And I'm thinking, we ain't got nothing. We ain't in
What are you doing? Yeah.
we ain't in no position to be giving nobody nothing. But God always blessed, and God always moved.
And people coming over eating up all our food. Yeah.
Mom always would say, I don't give for them. I give, and God knows my heart. And I used to say, but
Oh
but
my
I
God.
definitely, I get it now. I get it. I get it now. Sometimes I think about myself and I think I do the same thing that mom did. And now I'm thinking, now I know why you did it. I get it. The light bulb came on.
Yes. Wow. Well, I tell you what, this has been a great conversation.
Well, thank you, ma'am. I've enjoyed it myself.
Yeah, you did okay. I might let you come back again.
Oh, please do. Please do. I would love
And
to.
next time you get another degree, we'll have to
When I get
bring
my
you back.
next degree, when I get my next degree, I will definitely come back and share because I know you want to know
Abs-
what degree I
Absolutely,
got.
I do. Because I'm struggling to just do this one online class.
Well, hold on. I got this thing that comes on. It's my prayer thing. And every time it comes on, it reminds me it's time to pray.
Oh,
And
wow.
when I try to swipe away from it, it always ends up like coming back. It's like, no, it's time to pray. It's like 8 o'clock. It's prayer time. So thank you very much. But yeah, so our legacy will go on.
Yes, it
And
will.
when I get that doctorate, when I start training to train, don't be no hater and be wanting to join one of my classes, okay?
Okay. I won't be a hater and I won't join the class.
No, you're gonna join the class.
I'm
I mean,
busy. I'm trying to complete this class that I already just signed up for.
yeah, girl, sometimes I even have gone as far as I be working and I block off 3 hours, like for this training that I'm doing for certification um, for trauma training. I literally block off 3 hours from my day, which means that pushes me to working later at night. But that's how much I love to learn.
Oh, that's powerful. All right, lady, well, I'm going to get ready to let you go. And again, I thank you so much for joining us here on Let's Talk Destiny Talk Show. Um, my girl Shantae said, I'm starting from the bottom. Now I'm here because I'm moving on up. We've got over 600 views on our YouTube channel. Yep.
Yay!
Now, if we could get some subscribers, that would be great. People view, but they don't subscribe. So hopefully,
So here's what we gotta do, like every opportunity, and like I said, like any time that we can use a girlfriend platform to push things, I definitely want to. You remind me, we're gonna push it at the event in October.
yes,
We're actually gonna get you to come on, probably virtually, and like do something. We're trying to set all of that up now, so definitely gonna
awesome.
get
All right,
there.
ma'am. Thank you so much again for sharing with us tonight, and you have a blessed evening.
You too. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.